The galaxy was vast, full of stars and worlds, yet something strange was happening. Civilizations that once sent signals across the stars were falling silent. 100 years ago, the songs of alien voices filled the void. Now only echoes remained. No one knew why entire species had vanished, leaving only ruins behind. Far from Earth, the exploration ship Aurora Dawn drifted in the dark. Its crew had been sent to study the empty worlds reported by traders and scouts. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, staring at the hollow remains of a planet that once held a thriving city. Now broken towers stood like the bones of giants, reaching toward the sky with no life to claim them. "Another one," whispered Dr. Hannah Lee, the science officer. Her hands trembled as she scanned the ruins. "Third in this sector. The pattern is the same. Cities destroyed, no bodies, no survivors, like they were hunted," added Lieutenant Marco Silva, the weapons officer. His voice carried unease. The word hunted spread across the crew like a cold wind. Nobody wanted to believe it, but the signs were clear. The destruction was not natural. These were not accidents of nature or wars between neighbors. Something had come, something powerful, and it had taken entire species away. When the Aurora Dawn returned to Earth, its findings shook the leaders of humanity. The Council of Nations gathered in great halls, studying the reports with grim faces. The evidence showed the same truth. Intelligent civilizations were being erased one by one across the galaxy. Some leaders argued for silence. "We are still young," one elder said. "If predators are out there, we should hide. We must not draw their eyes to us." Others disagreed. "We cannot stay blind," argued General Ayla Hassan. "If they find us and we are not ready, we will suffer the same fate." The debate burned for weeks, but no decision felt safe. Humanity had always faced danger by land, sea, and sky. But this was different. This was the universe itself turning hostile. Meanwhile, the Aurora Dawn's crew continued their missions. Each journey revealed more worlds left hollow, as if life itself had been stolen away. On one frozen moon, they found a library carved into ice. Records told of a species called the Revethi, who once filled the stars with art and knowledge. The last entries in their archives spoke of shadows that came from the void, ships that blotted out the sun, and hunts that never ended. They knew who was chasing them, Dr. Lee said softly, running her fingers over the alien carvings. But they never had a chance. The Viraxi name was mentioned only once, etched in desperation. The crew did not yet understand its meaning, but they felt a chill. The Viraxi were real, and they were the reason civilizations disappeared. Back on Earth, fear grew. Messages from colonies on the edges of human space spoke of strange sightings, lights that followed ships, signals that vanished before anyone could trace them. Traders told of hearing alien hunters boasting in hidden channels, though no one could prove the stories. Yet among the fear, there was also something else: resolve. Humanity had always been prey to something. Long ago, humans had faced beasts on Earth with nothing but fire and stone, yet they survived. They crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and endured storms. Each time they were tested, they grew stronger. Now they faced a test greater than any before. Captain Ward stood with his crew on the bridge of the Aurora Dawn, staring at a star map filled with empty civilizations. He spoke with quiet determination. "They hunted every species," he said, "but we will not vanish like the others. We must learn who they are. We must be ready." The others nodded. Fear was in their hearts, but so was courage. The galaxy was darker than they had believed, but humanity was not a race that surrendered. They did not know when the hunters would arrive. They did not know if they could win. But they knew one truth that echoed through history. When cornered, humanity always fought back. And somewhere beyond the light of distant suns, the hunters were already watching. The first clear sign came from the colony of Haven Reach, a small settlement at the edge of human space. Haven Reach was peaceful, its people mostly farmers and traders far from the politics of Earth. For years they lived without fear. But then, strange reports began to reach the central network. Ships returning from the colony spoke of shadows that followed them through the void. Messages sent from Haven Reach grew shorter and weaker, until one day they stopped completely. No distress call, no warning, just silence. On Earth, the Council of Nations gathered once more. General Ayla Hassan stood before them, her voice steady but urgent. "This is no accident. We have seen the ruins of other species. We know what this means. The hunters have found us." Some leaders still hesitated. "We have no proof," one counselor argued. Perhaps it was a storm or a failure of their systems. But deep down, everyone felt the truth. The hunters had arrived. Captain Elias Ward and the crew of the Aurora Dawn were sent to investigate. As they approached Haven Reach, they saw the colony's fields burned and its skies filled with smoke. Houses lay in ruins, but no bodies were found. The people had been taken, just like the Revethi before them. Lieutenant Marco Silva scanned the wreckage. "They toyed with us," he muttered. "They wanted us to see this." Then a shadow appeared on the ship's sensors. A vessel larger than any human design slid into view. Its hull was black like obsidian, with sharp edges that looked less like a ship and more like a blade cutting through the void. Dr. Hana Lee whispered the word that chilled them all. "Varaxi." The alien vessel sent a signal not in words but in sounds that felt like growls and snarls. The crew could not understand the language, but the meaning was clear. It was a challenge. A hunt had begun. The Aurora Dawn retreated at full speed, dodging beams of strange energy that struck like claws in the darkness. For hours, the human ship fled through asteroid fields and gas clouds, trying to escape the predator that stalked them. Captain Ward gave sharp commands, his calm voice holding the crew together. "Keep moving. Do not let them trap us. Humanity must know what we face." At last, the Aurora Dawn managed to lose the alien ship in a dense nebula. They returned to Earth battered but alive, carrying the first direct proof of the Varaxi threat. When the Council saw the recordings, silence filled the chamber. The Varaxi were no myth. They were real, and they were hunting humans as they had hunted others before. Fear swept across Earth and its colonies. Some wanted to hide deeper in space to scatter so the Varaxi would never find them all. Others demanded weapons, fleets, and a plan to fight. General Hassan spoke again. "We cannot run forever. They will chase us to every corner of the stars. If we do nothing, we will end like the others, silent and gone. We must prepare. We must learn their ways. We must fight." But how could humanity fight hunters who had destroyed species far older and stronger? The question burned in every mind. On the Aurora Dawn, Captain Ward studied every detail of the enemy ship. He noticed its movements swift but predictable. The Varaxi relied on fear, on chasing prey until it broke. But humans had faced hunters before back on Earth, in jungles and plains. They knew what it meant to turn the hunt around. Dr. Lee found another clue. In the nebula, the Varaxi ship had struggled. Its sensors had been confused by the thick gases and radiation. They were powerful, yes, but not invincible. They had weaknesses if humanity could only find them. Meanwhile, colonies near the frontier began vanishing one by one. Sometimes a broken message escaped, filled with static and screams. The Varaxi enjoyed the chase, taking their time before striking. Children on Earth began asking their parents if the hunters would come for them too. No one had answers. The shadow of fear spread wider each day. But in secret bases and hidden labs, humanity was preparing. Engineers worked night and day to design ships that could strike fast and hide from alien sensors. Pilots trained in new tactics, learning to fight in ways the Varaxi would not expect. The decision had been made. Humanity would not go quietly into silence. Captain Ward gathered his crew and looked at them with steady eyes. "They believe we are prey, but they do not know us. We are human. We adapt, we endure, and when the time comes, we will show them that the hunt works both ways." The crew nodded, their fear now mixed with resolve. They knew the war had already begun, even if humanity was not yet ready. Somewhere beyond the stars, the Varaxi prepared their next move, confident in their strength. But for the first time, their prey was watching back, planning, waiting, and deep in their hearts, humanity felt a spark of defiance. The hunters had arrived, but they would learn a lesson no other species had taught them. Humans were not easy prey. The first battles with the Varaxi were disasters. Human patrol ships tried to defend the frontier colonies, but the alien hunters moved with precision and speed. They struck like shadows, disabling engines and tearing ships apart before crews even understood what was happening. On Earth, the fear deepened. News of lost fleets spread quickly, and many whispered that humanity would end like all the others, silent ruins scattered across the stars. But not everyone was ready to surrender. Captain Elias Ward and his crew on the Aurora Dawn refused to give up. They spent every hour studying the recordings of Varaxi attacks, Again and again they watched how the hunters moved, how they chased, how they struck. "They don't just fight," Lieutenant Marco Silva said, pointing at the images. "They play. They want us to run. They want fear." Dr. Hannah Lee added softly, "If they want us afraid, maybe that is their weakness. What if we don't run? What if we make them chase something they cannot control?" The idea grew quickly. Humanity could not fight the Viraxi in open battle, not yet. But perhaps they could trick them. Perhaps they could learn to hunt the hunters. The Council of Nations approved a bold plan, though many doubted it would work. They called it Operation Decoy. Several small uninhabited stations were built near the frontier, disguised to look like colonies. Each was filled with false signals, fake life signs, and traps hidden deep inside. The Aurora Dawn was chosen to watch the first test. The crew waited in silence, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid, as the false colony broadcast its signal into the void. For days, nothing happened. The crew grew restless. Then one night cycle, the Viraxi came. 3 black ships appeared from the dark, circling the fake colony like predators around prey. They scanned, they circled, and then they struck. But instead of frightened humans running in panic, the Viraxi found silence. No one screamed. No ships fled. Confused, the hunters moved closer. That was when the traps were sprung. Mines hidden inside the colony exploded, tearing into one Viraxi ship. At the same time, human strike craft darted from hiding, firing weapons at close range. The Viraxi had expected a chase, but instead they were ambushed. The battle was fierce. The hunters fought back with deadly skill, but for the first time they were on the wrong side of fear. When the smoke cleared, 2 Viraxi ships were destroyed, and the third limped away into the void. On the Aurora Dawn, cheers filled the bridge. Lieutenant Silva grinned for the first time in months. "We made them bleed," he said. Captain Ward did not smile, but his eyes shone with determination. "This is only the beginning. Now they know we are not easy prey." News of the victory spread across human space like wildfire. Colonies that had been afraid began to hope. People spoke of a new idea, that maybe, just maybe, humanity could survive this war. But the Viraxi did not take the loss lightly. Soon after, larger fleets began to appear, striking harder and faster. They wanted revenge. Even so, humanity now had something the other hunted species never did: time. Each skirmish taught them more about the Viraxi's tactics, strengths, and weaknesses. Scientists studied the wreckage of the destroyed ships. Engineers worked day and night to copy pieces of alien technology. Dr. Lee discovered something important. The Viraxi relied heavily on their advanced sensors to track prey, but in places with strong radiation or strange energy fields, those sensors became unreliable. That was why the nebula had confused them before. "If we can control the battlefield," she explained, "we can blind them. They won't be hunters anymore. They'll be lost in the dark." General Hassan quickly approved new training programs. Human pilots learned to fight in asteroid fields near gas giants and inside storm clouds of plasma. They turned the galaxy's dangers into their allies. Slowly, a change began. The Viraxi still won most battles, but they no longer crushed humanity with ease. In some fights, human fleets even forced them to retreat. Each small victory gave courage to the people, and courage was something the Viraxi had never faced before. One night aboard the Aurora Dawn, Captain Ward spoke quietly to his crew. "The turning point has come. They see us as prey, but soon they will learn the truth. Humanity hunts back." The crew nodded. They were tired, but their spirits burned bright. For the first time since the Viraxi had appeared, they felt the balance shift, even if only slightly. Far away in their dark fortresses, the Viraxi warlords studied the reports. They had underestimated humans. Prey was not supposed to fight back, not like this. And in that moment, for the first time in their long history of endless hunts, the Viraxi felt something they had never known before. Doubt the victories were small at first, but they changed everything. Humanity was no longer hiding. Across the frontier, human ships moved with purpose, hunting the hunters instead of running from them. Colonies that had once trembled now built defenses and trained pilots. Fear was still there, but courage burned brighter. Captain Elias Ward led the Aurora Dawn into the heart of contested space. They moved with precision, following intelligence gathered from previous encounters. Human engineers had modified old ships with captured Viraxi technology, making them faster, harder to detect, and more dangerous than before. "This is our chance," Ward told his crew. Every fleet we take down weakens them. Every victory shows the galaxy that humans do not surrender. The first target was a Varaxi hunting outpost orbiting a small, lifeless planet. The station had been used to track prey across the sector. It seemed impenetrable, with turrets covering every approach. But humans had learned well. Dr. Hana Lee had discovered that Varaxi sensors could not detect rapid changes in electromagnetic fields. Using this, the Aurora Dawn approached under a cloak of interference, slipping past the watchful eyes of the hunters. Lieutenant Marco Silva grinned as the attack began. They won't even know what hit them. Explosions lit the void as human strike ships emerged from hiding, tearing through the station's defenses. The Varaxi were strong, but they had underestimated humanity's tactics. Ships that had been prey yesterday were now predators today. Across human space, similar attacks erupted. Colonies that had once hidden now acted as support bases, supplying weapons, fuel, and intelligence. Every successful raid boosted morale. Humanity was learning to fight as one, combining strategy, courage, and adaptability in ways the Varaxi had never faced before. The Varaxi were furious. Their fleets grew larger and their attacks more brutal. But each time they met humans who had studied their moves, who had learned their patterns, who were ready. The hunters were beginning to feel the sting of loss. During a battle near a dense asteroid field, the Aurora Dawn's crew faced a fleet 3 times their size. The Varaxi expected an easy hunt, but humans used the terrain to their advantage. Ships darted between asteroids, disappearing and reappearing in unexpected positions. Mines and traps set weeks earlier forced the Varaxi to split their forces. Captain Ward watched the battle unfold. "Hold your positions," he ordered. "Don't let them dictate the fight. Make them chase us and we will control the hunt." Hours later, the Varaxi fleet retreated, their pride wounded. Humanity had not only survived, they had won. For the first time, humans could see a future where the galaxy was not ruled by fear. News of these victories reached Earth and the colonies. People cheered, and the young who had never known peace began to dream of victory. But the Council knew the war was far from over. The Varaxi were ruthless, clever, and patient. General Ayla Hassan addressed the pilots and soldiers gathered for a briefing. "The Varaxi believe themselves unbeatable," she said, "but they have never faced a species that does not surrender. Every fleet we destroy, every colony we protect proves that humanity will not fall. We fight not just for survival, but for all species that have been hunted before. We fight for the galaxy itself." In hidden corners of space, other species watched. Survivors of the Varaxi hunts had lived in secret for centuries. They began to join the fight, quietly providing humans with knowledge and technology. Together, these alliances strengthened the human campaign. The war shifted again. Humans moved from defense to offense. Strike teams targeted Varaxi supply lines, ambushed patrols, and captured small fleets. Slowly, the hunters began to feel fear themselves. The tables were turning. On the Aurora Dawn, Captain Ward looked at his crew with pride. They believed they could hunt without consequence, he said. They believed every species would fall like the others. But they forgot one thing about humanity. We do not break easily. We adapt, we endure, and when the time comes, we will finish what we started. Somewhere deep in Varaxi space, their warlords convened. Reports of losses and setbacks filled their chambers. The hunters, who had never feared, now faced an enemy that could strike back. An enemy that was unpredictable, clever, and relentless. Doubt crept into their calculations, and for the first time, the Varaxi questioned their centuries of dominance. Humanity had learned an essential truth. The greatest weapon in the galaxy was not technology, not strength, not numbers. It was courage, unity, and the will to fight. The war of hunters had begun in earnest, but humanity had already changed its fate. No longer prey, humans were now hunters too, and the galaxy would soon witness a force that could not be hunted, a species that could not be broken. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding, no longer trembling at the thought of the Varaxi. Entire fleets now moved like shadows, striking swiftly, learning, adapting, and growing stronger with each battle. Every victory gave hope, and every loss taught a lesson. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Aurora Dawn, looking out at the stars. Ahead lay the Varaxi homeworld, a dark planet heavily defended, surrounded by fleets and fortresses. It was the heart of the Hunter's empire, the place where centuries of predation had been planned and executed. Humanity would strike here, and the galaxy would never be the same. "Are we ready?" Lieutenant Marco Silva asked, tension in his voice. Captain Ward turned slowly, his expression steady. "We are. They believe we are prey, but we are hunters now. Every life they stole, every species they destroyed brought us here. Tonight we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world they tried to erase." Dr. Hanali studied the star charts. "Their defenses are strong, but I've found a weakness. Their fleets rely on a central command network. If we disrupt it, the outer defenses will fall into chaos. We can strike deep, but only once." The plan was set. Strike teams would spread across the system, targeting key points while the Aurora Dawn and its fleet attacked the command hub. They moved quietly, like ghosts in the void, until the first alarm sounded. The Varaxi fleet rushed forward, confident in their strength. But this time humanity was ready. Ships darted between asteroids using plasma storms and gravitational anomalies to hide their movements. Mines and ambushes awaited the hunters at every turn. Explosions lit the darkness as Varaxi vessels were destroyed, forced back, or captured. The hunters' confidence faltered as they realized this was no ordinary prey. They were facing an enemy who understood fear, surprise, and strategy. In orbit above the Varaxi homeworld, the Aurora Dawn led the assault. Captain Ward's crew fired in perfect synchronization with the fleet. The central command station, once untouchable, shook under the coordinated attack. Dr. Lee's warning had been correct. When the command station fell, the Varaxi fleet scattered in confusion. Without coordination, their ships became vulnerable. Human pilots pressed the attack, striking swiftly and decisively. Lieutenant Silva could hardly believe what he saw. "They're breaking. They've never been broken like this before." Captain Ward kept his voice calm. "Finish the hunt. Leave nothing that can threaten the galaxy again." The battle raged for hours. Every corner of the Varaxi stronghold was contested. Humanity's combined forces, now aided by hidden survivors of other hunted species, pressed forward relentlessly. For every human ship lost, 2 Varaxi ships fell. For every colony once destroyed, a victory was claimed. Finally, the command station exploded in a brilliant flash of light, shaking the planet below. The Varaxi homeworld was silent for the first time in millennia. The hunters who had terrorized the galaxy now faced their own destruction. On the bridge of the Aurora Dawn, Captain Ward allowed himself a small smile. "It is done," he said quietly. "The galaxy will never be prey again." Across human space, colonies cheered. Survivors of lost civilizations sent messages of gratitude, revealing themselves to humanity for the first time. The hunter's reign had ended, and hope returned to worlds that had not seen it in centuries. Yet Captain Ward knew the work was not over. Humanity would not seek revenge beyond necessity. They had learned a vital lesson. Strength and courage, when guided by justice, could protect life across the stars. They would defend the galaxy, not dominate it. The Aurora Dawn's crew gathered, looking at the stars with pride and respect. They had faced monsters who hunted without mercy and had survived. They had become the hunters, the defenders, the protectors. Dr. Lee spoke softly. "We were the hunted. Now we are the hunters who protect. That is the difference," Captain Ward nodded, "and humanity will never forget it." Far beyond the reaches of the galaxy, the remaining Varaxi fled into deep space, broken and leaderless. They had once believed every species could be erased, but they had underestimated the one that refused to bow. Humanity had faced fear, danger, and the unknown, yet they had triumphed. They had turned the tables not just for themselves, but for every species that had ever been hunted, and so the galaxy changed forever. The hunters were no more, and humanity had proven that even in the darkest void, courage, unity, and determination could shine brighter than any star. The Aurora Dawn drifted through space, carrying its crew home. For the first time, the stars felt safe. Humanity had survived the hunt. Humanity had become the guardian of the galaxy. The echoes of fear were gone. In their place rose hope, courage, and the promise that no species would ever be hunted again.